Hi guys, and welcome to Carflix. Today we're going to be doing a full service on the Peugeot RCZ. This is either a 2-year or 20,000 mile service. The reason for this is because this is the HDI model, the 2 litre. Now I do an interim on mine at 10,000 because mine's been remapped. But normally, if you take it to a garage, they have to do the following. They have to change the oil filter, the diesel filter, and the cabin filter, as well as the brake fluid. I will be doing all those things today, apart from the brake fluid, because I do those on my interims. I'll do a separate video for that. So without further ado, let's crack on with that video. So these are the things that you're going to need to do this service, okay? Now I always use Bosch parts because I just found they're really good quality. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just thought I'd use the best you can get. Now, the things you're going to need are, you're going to need a drill. If you don't have a drill, it doesn't matter. You can just use a screwdriver with different ends on, but this one's got a T30 on. You're going to need a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. You're going to need a 21mm socket to take the sump plug out. A flathead screwdriver just to take off the fuel hoses. And you're going to need a special tool here, which is called an oil filter housing wrench, okay? Now the filters you're going to need are a Bosch air filter. Now I've gone for the anti-allergy one because my sons have got really bad allergies, but you can get the cheaper one, which works perfectly fine. Now the oil that is actually specified for this engine is Total Quartz, and it's a 030. This is really good stuff. It can be quite hard to get hold of, but this was actually recommended for this particular engine, okay? The other thing you're going to need is the oil filter, and then you're going to need this, which is the diesel filter. You're also going to need some gloves and some rags for the oil filter when you change that, and a bottle of water because it's just going to be a bit of thirsty work. So the hardest part of this job is actually getting the car off the ground because the chassis on these are so low. So what I've had to do here is get one of these. You can get off Amazon, which is a really low kind of ramp, plastic ramp. I got a pair of these for 30 quid. And then I've kind of put like a piece of wood between that just to get it up onto a normal plastic ramp. And that seemed to work. And once the car is up in the air, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come to the passenger side door. And we're going to pop open the bonnet lever just here. And then we're going to open the bonnet. So open the bonnet on these, it's quite simple. You lift it, and then there's a silver tab you pull to the left, and then these are on bonnet struts, and that allows you to get into the engine bay. This is the engine bay. Your air filter is located in here, and under this engine bay cover here, which you just pull up really easy. Here is your dipstick, which I advise you turn left and right before you do this, just to break the seal. This is your diesel filter. This is where you top your oil up. Your brake fluid reservoir is just here. But if you follow the dipstick down, you can see the oil filter is here. And this is why you need a special tool, because you just can't get anything on the top of it. So I've just let the car run for about 10 minutes to get the oil nice and warm. And now what I'm going to do is use my oil pan, and what you do is you remove this because the top one's a vent hole, and this is where all the oil will go into here. You'll probably notice that my car hasn't got an undershield on. That's because when I got this car it was badly damaged, so I will also show you how to refit one of those in a separate video. But let's get the oil off first. So position your oil catch can anti-clockwise, undo the nut, and then by hand literally undo it, and then when you feel the thread, keep pushing it up and then let go, and that will now fill up with oil. So while that oil is draining, I'm going to start preparing to get to the oil filter. So first thing you want to do is take this off your oil fill cap, which you can just move out of the way because it's on a flexi hose. Next you want to get a 10mm. So I've cracked these off, and then by hand just take them off. This is going to allow us to get to the oil filter, because when you use the tool you need as much room as possible. So this is just a shield that sits under the diesel filter. There you go. There is your old filter, and this was a Bosch filter as well. Here is the old cap, and on here it actually tells you the Newton meter. So that's 25 Newton meters that you're going to need when you put this back in. But before we do that, we're going to put the new filter inside here and put a new ring on it as well. So here's the new filter. Take the filter out, and what you'll find, you'll get a new O-ring in there as well. So we'll take that out. What I like to do is put the old oil filter in here like that, and then keep it out of the way and leave it on a rag because it will leak through. So now we're going to take the old O-ring off here. You'll probably need a screwdriver to do this, which is this one. the diesel filter. Now, if I remember rightly, last time I couldn't get this off before because someone had damaged it, but I think we can just move it out of the way. Now we're going to disconnect some connectors. So there's a connector here, which we need to get up. So you just push that down, slide it out. Then we're going to do the diesel one, so you might want a rag there just in case. These are quite tricky to get off, if I remember. Right, so on mine, unfortunately, the tab is broken here. So what I had to do was pull this middle bit up, hold it up with that, and then kind of prise that up so it's out. Now I've just got to kind of wiggle it out because there's not much room, and there's going to be a bit of diesel come out that can't be helped. So I'm just going to what I'm going to do is kind of leave it like that and let all that diesel kind of drain out of it, and then I'll go and get my filter. While that's doing that, I'll show you the new one. That's the item code for it. Very similar to the filter, but you can see the difference. Now, I religiously run this car on V-Power, but you can still see how much dirt you get out of that. But look how white that is compared to that. But you also get a new O-ring, which we'll put on in a minute once that's drained. Right, so that's almost drained now. So we'll get this filter, put it on a rag, and I'll put that on the floor. But again, look how filthy that is, and that's run on V-Power. So this is why it's important to change these every 20,000 or every 2 years, whichever comes first. Now you can see the colour difference. This used to be the same colour, it's the same brand. It just slides off like that. That's probably because of the diesel contaminating it, maybe. And then just slide your new one on. It goes on nicely. And then again, with all Bosch filters, you put the right in, goes up. Slot that in, and then we're going to now reinstall it. What do is just line it up. Maybe now is a good time to start putting this clip on. There we go, it clicked. So it does still work, it's just the locking mechanism has broken, so I will order a new one of these. It is 12 years old, the car, at the end of the day. Right, so now that's starting to go back in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting the bolts back in, so that should start to help it go in without me trying to force it down. is the airbox. Easy peasy with these, just undo them. They don't need to come all the way out. I've already done these. And then it's just a case of manoeuvring it out of the way like this. And then this is the K&N. Now what you normally do with a paper filter, you would just replace this. And yeah, but there is some debris in here. I'll give this a really good vac out. And I'm going to vac inside there as well. But yeah, this kind of shows you the dirt. But with these filters, you don't have to clean them for 75,000 miles. And I only put this in at 70,000, so I've got about 50,000 miles left. So I'll give everything a vac and then I'll put everything back together again. Right, so what I've done is I've cleaned all that out inside. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner now. And I've also vacuumed this out, which looks a lot cleaner. There's a lot of debris in there. And now I'm just going to reinstall it back in. Here we go. All you do is slide it in there, which is exactly the same what you do with a paper one. And line the holes up with the screws. Like that. And then make sure that it's muted correctly, which it is, and then just torque them down. Look at that, full of crap, absolutely full of crap. But this again is the anti-allergy one, and I'm going to replace it with the same because it's been a good filter. That's 2 years worth of pollen in there. So we're just going to copy. This is the item code, if you're wondering. We're going to pull the new one out and compare it. It does actually gives you instructions how to do it as well, but it's pretty simple. So if we compare these now, that's the old one. It's actually completely changed colour because it's exactly the same model, and this is a new one. So anyone that says, oh, you don't need to change it, there's the evidence. So let's just go and fit this one. So it doesn't matter which way around this is. I always like to have the Bosch on the outside and just slowly guide it in. It's quite brittle, so guide it in. Bit of patience. It should just slide in till it clicks. And again, put the front on like so. Click, click. Done. Again, just to show you inside here, look at all that crap. That's 2 years worth of pollen and muck. So we're now back under the car again. That's been draining for well over an hour now. So what we're going to do is slowly move this out of the way. So I started the engine, it stuttered a little bit. That's probably because we changed the filter, the fuel filter. I'm just going to check now. You can see there's some air coming through there, but there's no leak. Turn your ignition off again. Ignition on, start the car. Your service spanner light has now gone.
A great success!
Well, I hope you found this video really helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe as well. Until the next one.